What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel. We continue with our 2025 predictions for the upcoming 2025 college football season. Up next is the Utah Utes. Utah, of course, coming off a very disappointing season last year, going 5-7 in 2024. And yeah, disappointing year for this Utah team. Very disappointing. I would say it's more disappointing because, last year I think I picked this team to make it to the Big 12 championship, or at least picked them to be a top contender and among the favorites to win the Big 12 last year, and they obviously did not live up to those expectations. Can they turn things around in 2025? Well, my thoughts on this team, I think they can turn things around, but you look at the roster, offensively, I have a ton of question marks with this offense. The offense has just been so inconsistent in the last couple of years. They got to get that offense turned around. You got three different options at quarterback, with those three transfers coming in at the quarterback position, and yeah, that's the most important position on the field. So that's what Utah is going to have to work on this year, is definitely getting that quarterback position really situated. I think this defense will be pretty good. I don't know if it will be as dominant as it's been in the last couple of years, but it's still going to be a pretty consistent defense. But yeah, 2025 Utah, I don't really think they're going to become a dark horse team or potentially like a top contender in the Big 12. Here's the schedule for them in 2025. Again, this team was 5-7 last year in 2024. So let's go game by game, and I'll give you my official prediction for this Utah team for 2025. And of course, they start things off with UCLA on the road here on August 30th. And of course, a former Pac-12 conference game, of course, but now this time they're meeting as non-conference teams. So yeah, UCLA coming out of the Big 10 here, and then you got Utah, of course, in the Big 12. Both of these teams went to different conferences in the final year of the Pac-12 in 2024. You look at this UCLA team, I feel like they're going to be a little bit better this year. You had it 1 year with Deshaun Foster. I feel like he's got this program heading in the right direction. You also got Nico Amaliava coming in at quarterback as well, so maybe that does provide a spark for the UCLA offense. They don't really have a lot of talent, but they still got some playmakers even before Deshaun Foster came the head coach. So I think this will be a competitive game. It's probably a lower scoring game. I think both teams probably will go back and forth because it's a Power 4 non-conference game. I think UCLA playing at home, that's really the difference in this one. I think UCLA does win it here. They edge out Utah. I'm going to say they win it by like 3 or 4 points, somewhere in that particular range. So I got Utah starting off 0-1, but I got them beating Cal Poly and Wyoming. I think they beat Cal Poly pretty easily. That's an FCS team. They should be able to score a bunch of points. But then Wyoming, I don't think that's a game where Utah is going to take care of business by at least like 27 points. Although Wyoming was not really good last year, so maybe this is kind of an easy win, but it is on the road. You never know. Wyoming could be a team that could surprise out of the Mountain West. Yeah, they didn't have a great year last year, but I don't think this is going to be a game where Utah will win by at least over 3 touchdowns. Probably like a 14 to 17 point win, if that makes sense. So I got Utah winning both of those games. That's going to put them here at 2-1. Going into conference play the rest of the way, they'll play Texas Tech after that at home here on September 20th. A Texas Tech team that I'm pretty high on this year. I think this is a dark horse contender in the Big 12. I think this is the most underrated college football team heading into the country this year. Yeah, the Red Raiders do have a bunch of experience coming back, and they also brought in a bunch of transfers from the transfer portal. Yeah, Texas Tech I think is going to be pretty good, but Utah is playing this one at home. When I did Texas Tech's video, I had a pretty tough time picking this one because Texas Tech has to travel out west and everything, and I know it's not really that far from Texas all the way out west and everything, but I feel like Texas Tech playing on the road at Utah, that's going to make these new faces of Texas Tech have a pretty tough game. So I think this will be a competitive game, probably a lower scoring game as well. I think Utah's defense will be the difference in this one. They stopped that pretty high-powered Texas Tech offense, and I think they will win this game. So I'm going to go with Utah here to get a big win over Texas Tech, and that's going to put them here at 3-1. Next game on the road at West Virginia on September 27th. West Virginia team that I don't think is going to be terrible this year. I know a lot of people are saying the Mountaineers are going to be pretty terrible because of the new coaching staff and also a lot of new players, but I don't really see any major weaknesses for West Virginia. Yeah, they won't be a dark horse in my opinion. They'll definitely not become, really close to being a contender in the Big 12, but still, West Virginia is on the road. It's a pretty tough place to play, and when I look at these two rosters, I think it's pretty even. So yeah, home field advantage, I'm going to say that's the difference here, and I'm going to go with West Virginia here to get the win. So that's going to drop Utah now to 3-2, and then they get their first bye week before a big game at home against Arizona State on October the 11th. Possibly the biggest home game on this schedule, maybe one out of the two home games that they have on this schedule. Maybe the other one is Kansas State, but you look at this Arizona State team, a lot of experience coming back for this team. Yeah, they lost Cam Scatterbo at running back, but I think they'll be just fine. They got a pretty good quarterback in Sam Levitt. Utah coming out of the bye week, they will probably make this a pretty tough test here for the Sun Devils, but you look at the coaching staff for Arizona State, I think it's a little bit better than Utah's. Utah definitely has a pretty good coaching staff as well, but you look at this Sun Devil team, the motivation factor is there for them. I think Utah does make this a close game where it's potentially an upset alert type game, but still, I do trust the Sun Devils coaching staff a lot more, and Arizona State is kind of, the team that I've been kind of, writing, as a Big 12 favorite, so I think the Sun Devils actually get the win, so I'm going to go with Arizona State here to get this win at home against Utah here, and that's going to put them now at 3-3. Then they go on the road to face BYU on October 18th. You look at this BYU team now, they do have some question marks at quarterback, possibly with Jake Razliff gone in the transfer portal, possibly. Yeah, Utah definitely could probably make this a competitive game, because when I did my BYU video, I said that this is a game that BYU definitely is a better team. But I look at it now, I think Utah can actually compete in this game, possibly in the first half. But I feel like the BYU Cougars will find a way to pull away in the second half. They also have a bunch of experience coming back, and I think after playing a physical game against Arizona State, they come in a little bit beat up, and they also come in a little bit more beat up in the second half. And I think BYU does edge out Utah here, so I'm going with the Cougars in that one. So that's 3 losses in a row. And then they get Colorado at home on October 25th. Colorado's a team that I'm kind of expecting to take a step back, but this will still be a pretty good team. They're not a team that's going to be probably contending for the Big 12 or anything, because they lost some pretty good playmakers, but they do got new playmakers coming in that probably will be better by this time. Caden Salter probably will be playing good football by this time as well. I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback. I think he'll get better for Colorado this year. It's just going to take him some time. And, the receivers that Colorado has, they're not really as good as maybe the team, they had last year. But I think this will be a competitive game. But I got to go with Colorado here, because I do trust Caden Salter at quarterback. And I don't really trust the guy that's going to probably have to start here for Utah as of right now. So I'm going Colorado here in this one. So that's 4 losses in a row. And then they go into the month of November. They have to win at least 3 out of these 4 games here in the month of November to get to a bowl game. They'll play Cincinnati, though, at home on November 1st. Pretty even matchup here. Cincinnati is a team that could be a little bit better this year. They had a pretty better season last year under Scott Satterfield in his second season, so Cincinnati might make it to a bowl game. But Cincinnati does have to travel out west here, so that gives Utah an advantage here. And I also think the Utes are kind of desperate for a win at this point. I think Utah finally gets it. I think they beat Cincinnati here. Pretty close game, but I'm going to go with Utah because they're playing at home, and that's going to put them now at 4-5. Then it's on the road at Baylor here on November 15th. They get their second bye week before playing this game. Pretty tough place to play. Obviously, these two teams met as non-conference opponents in the last couple of years. Well, now they meet as conference opponents for the first time. So yeah, this will be the first Big 12 game between these two teams. You look at this Baylor team, they're pretty similar to Texas Tech. A bunch of experience coming back, same thing like Arizona State and BYU. Yeah, this Baylor team, I don't think they're a top contender. I think they're a dark horse team, and they also could be possibly a top 25 team. I've had this team in my way too early top 25 and spring top 25. I'm just really that high on Baylor, and yeah, I think Baylor is going to be a pretty good team this year, and also they're playing at home. I think Baylor does win this one, probably by a couple of touchdowns. I don't know if I see this game being all that close. I think Baylor is the better team on paper, so got to go with Utah to lose that game, and that's going to drop them now to 4-6. And then they play Kansas State at home on November 22nd. If there was another game on here where Utah is due for a big win this year, it's probably this game. Kansas State is going to be a pretty good team this year. And I think, because of this game being in the month of November, let's say Kansas State comes in. They're probably, the top team in the Big 12. They're really close to being in the Big 12 championship. Well, somebody is going to ruin that, possible chance for them. And I think Utah is the team to do it. So, and I did my Kansas State video way back, and I already picked, Kansas State here to get upsetted by Utah. And also traveling out west, that's really going to be tough here for this Kansas State team. So I think Utah does beat Kansas State. They pull off an upset. That might be the second biggest win on the schedule that they'll have this year against Texas Tech and Kansas State both. And I think they improved to 5-6. And then the final game of the season on the road at Kansas on November 28th. This will be on the Friday after Thanksgiving. Pretty even matchup here as well. It's kind of like the Cincinnati game. Pretty much home field advantage will be the difference in this one. But I got to trust Jalen Daniels at quarterback, depending on who the starter is for Utah. And so I'm going to go with the Jayhawks here. Pretty low-scoring game, probably. I mean, it could be a game that goes either way, but it's a game that Utah can definitely win. But I'm going to say that they lose that game. So I got Utah finishing 5-7. I mean, I'm expecting this team to kind of do better than that. I can see them going possibly 6-6 or 7-5. I mean, I can see them doing a whole lot better than that. I wouldn't really be shocked if they probably, make it to a bowl game this year, but kind of a tough schedule in the Big 12. And then you got UCLA in the non-conference. I think it's all about that first game. If they win that game, I think they go 6-6. But if they don't, it's probably a 5-7 year. But maybe they pull off an upset somewhere else in the Big 12. Maybe they could pull off an upset against Arizona State or BYU, or they can beat Colorado. I mean, anything can happen here for this Utah team. But I got this team going 5-7. So that's my prediction here for Utah for 2025. Do you guys agree or disagree with this prediction? Give me your prediction for this Utah team down in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports YouTube channel.